Welcome back to Echo Ridge, where we are continuing our max difficulty achievement run. Today, we're going to try to make Brian's life just a little bit better. They're currently hovering around 67% stress, and I can't imagine why. But to help, we put in a small massage clinic. This massage table is set at 75%, and so whenever Brian gets to 75%, they take a break. This helps by not getting them all the way to their stressed response, and while I didn't necessarily mind that Brian was vomiting everywhere, there's a potential that it will get them in trouble. We've also started growing some bog buckets, and are sitting around 4,400 calories, so food is no longer an issue. Well, at least until the water runs out. I've been storing all this carbon dioxide down here with the intention of growing some dust caps, because one thing is for certain, Brian definitely needs a friend. The thing you have to remember about stress is it's not connected to morale. I mean, we have a great hall, a latrine, and a barracks here, and they have plenty of morale for the requirement, which is still 0. I'm also going to go ahead and put them in hard digging and improved construction, because it's not actually going to change their overall morale, because while it does add 1 to the morale requirement, they get a bonus morale because they have an interest in it. I should have done that last episode. I just, had a couple of other things that I was worrying about, such as keeping Brian alive. But more onto the point of stress. There's only so many ways to get rid of stress in the game. One thing I did was adding a couple of pieces of carpeted tile here, because it just so happens that there is a wild-growing thimbleweed on this planetoid that is producing some reed fiber every once in a while, which is going to be good because when we bring Brian's friend in, they're also going to need some tickled tootsies. But if we take a look at Brian's stress, they do have the high morale, which is reducing it by 20%, but they're also sopping wet, and because of the difficulty, when you add that to the frankly depressing, is going to cause their stress to go up. That won't be a big problem for very long because we will be moving all of this water. In fact, now that this one is complete, I can deconstruct it and enable this pincher pump so Brian will start moving all this water over here as well. That's right, Brian. Take a nice relaxing break. After all, it's not like there's any work to do around here. But I am looking forward to each and every pod because that is also going to help reduce Brian's stress for the simple reason that they're going to have a friend to talk to. For instance, if we go to our main colony, we can see that a lot of the dupes get the minus 5% for pleasant chit-chat. They're also getting a minus 5% for smelling the flowers, which makes sense because bristle blossoms give off the floral scent. Over here on Rikazon, though, we only have mellow mallows. Mallow? Mallow? I don't know. And in their description, they say that they heighten decor and alleviate stress. I understand how they heighten the decor, but what I'm not quite sure is how they alleviate stress. Right now, I've locked Brian inside this room, and they're standing right next to the sunny retro flower pot, and I'm not seeing any impact to stress. Although I did just witness something called a stress burp. But I don't know what a stress burp is. I don't even know if it's a positive thing or a negative thing. And taking a look at the Oxygen Not Included wiki, I don't see anything in there about a stress burp. We are definitely going to be taking a duplicate out of this pod. Brian could use the help with the labor, and, as we've been saying, they could also use a friend. The question is, which dupe do we take? Because all 3 of them are decent. The Marie has 3 interests. They're also Green Thumb and Night Owl, although I always worry about taking Trypophobic, because if they get themselves into trouble, it's a little bit more difficult to get them out. This Quinn's pretty good as they have quick learning, and their only negative is squeamish, but they only have 2 interests. And then there's Ari, who also has 3 interests, although one of them is doctoring. So I think in this case, I'm going to roll the dice and take this Marie. The Planetoid's not so big, and we're not going to have to do a lot of digging errands, and Brian's already a digger, so the Marie will be able to do everything else. So welcome to the playthrough, our 23rd duplicate, Andrew Thomas. Don't worry, Andrew, you're going to absolutely love it here in a little while, after you do some work. With Andrew in the colony, we definitely need to plant some more food, so it's time to get working on the dust caps. The question is how many? With each mushroom, after 7.5 cycles giving us 2,400 calories, it gives us a per cycle rate of 320 calories. Considering our dupes are hungry boys and consume 2,000 calories per cycle, that means we need 6.25 plants to be able to feed 1 duplicate. So I'm going to start by putting some farm tiles down here, but we need another 3 plants. Unfortunately, Brian does not have super hard digging yet, but we're going to change that. We also need a place to store all the slime, so we're going to put a storage bin here, and then cover it with just a little bit of water so the slime is not able to off-gas. Not that it matters very much. Now, giving Brian the super hard digging is going to give them a morale requirement of 4, but considering their current morale's at 13, I'm not too worried about it. Now, we're not doing bad on slime. Right now we have 680 kilos worth, and considering the dust cap only requires 4 kilos per cycle, it will last a little while. But what's great is this planetoid has a naturally reoccurring source of slime because it gets hit with the slimy meteor showers. Right now we only have 3 fungal spore seeds, so I'm gonna have to go find some more of those. And while I'd actually like to keep them wild, I don't think that'd be a smart idea because I need the calories right now. Lucky for us, a bunch of lettuce just happened to come up, and this must be some very hardy lettuce because it's enough to feed both duplicants for an entire cycle. I think I'm going to go ahead and reduce the massage table down from the 75 because watching Brian consistently have their pity party all over the colony is starting to wear thin. So we're going to reduce it to say 50? Maybe then they'll stop doing the dumpy walk. Or we could just turn the massage clinic off because Andrew here is an ugly crier. So between Andrew and Brian, I have an infinite supply of polluted water and clean water. Off of Rikazon, I wanted to give you an update on Whiskey's mission with the Diggy Diggy rocket. And the system we put into place with the conveyor chute and the conveyor loader fitting worked out perfectly. All those materials are sitting here in the rocket and they're only between 28 and 33 degrees. Now some of what they're bringing back is igneous rock, which is much needed here because we're starting to run really low in our ability to feed the stone hatches. We're also going to be getting ready to send Angry Forest back out aboard the Slow and Steady to continue our exploration of the star map. I think this time we're going to head down in this area here. So apparently what little water I did have in there quickly got overwritten by the off-gassing slime, so I'm going to have to add in a little bit more water this time. Lucky for us, this planet has plenty of water just lying around. Hello, Duplicant Workers Union? Yes, I'd like to report a workplace violation. Yes, over here on Rikazon. Yeah, it's a dumpster fire. Please send help. I installed a pitcher pump up here to gain access to the salt water. That way we could put it in a much larger bottle size because all the little small bottles they kept dropping off were just getting overwritten. This should fix that problem though, because while it's easy for the slime to overwrite a few grams of salt water, it's not about to overwrite 200 kilos. With food and stress somewhat solved, at least for the time being, it's now time to start furthering the development of the colony itself. To start off with, I'm going to rip out this entire slime biome. For one, we could use all the slime, but for two, I need to consolidate all the polluted water and get rid of all this polluted dirt that's hanging around everywhere. Then I'll be able to start dealing with all the polluted oxygen and the yucky lungs that it's causing. By the way, did I mention that there's a small issue with germs as well? And those germs have given Brian slime lung. And just in case you forgot how bad slime lung can be, it's given Brian -3 to athletics for over 3 cycles. Now by itself it wouldn't be too bad, but you know, they also have -4 to athletics for the major eye irritation. They're breathing more because of the yucky lungs, and they're sopping wet, so it's easy to sort of see why progress on this planetoid is taking quite so long. A small update is I've put in a sublimation station. We weren't exactly hurting on oxygen because of all the off-gassing polluted water, but I figured we'd get ahead of the issue before it did become a problem. Now we are surrounding it with a couple of deodorizers who are going to be doing the best that they can cleaning out all this polluted oxygen. I've also installed one in the barracks, so at least during the nighttime, they'll be able to sleep in clean oxygen. Our digging is going, well, slow. But after we end up digging all this area out, I think we're going to turn our attention to this area for a couple of reasons. For one, we're going to need the sand. Right now we have 11 tons, and quite a bit that is accessible. But before I want to do any of the long-term projects on this planetoid, cleaning it up sort of just makes sense. Speaking of those longer-term projects, I keep finding more and more volcanoes. Right now, I believe there's probably about 8. And it is a beautiful collection of cobalt, aluminum, gold, and iron volcanoes. So I'm thinking I might have to turn half of this planetoid into a giant industrial sauna. But to bring us back full circle, I can't do any of that until the place is cleaned up. And we can't do that until Brian gets back to work. We're going to give Brian some help with the digging by bringing aboard this Wren. They're buff and they have an interest in digging. And their negative, well, it's not really a negative at all. If Wren wants to use the bathroom for a little bit longer, let them. As long as they keep doing our digging. Welcome to the colony, our 24th dupe, Ryan Healy. Along with making sure that Ryan has a mess table and a place to sleep, we now have to figure out what we're going to feed them. And I think the easiest way to be able to feed them is going to be adding some more bog buckets. So I think we'll make this sort of a bog bucket row, right about there. This will give us 13, and it takes just over 7 bog buckets to be able to feed a duplicate, at least on the raw bog jellies. But that's not going to be too big of a deal because the next duplicate I'm looking for is going to be the cook. And once we're able to cook the mushrooms into fried mushrooms, we should have plenty of calories to go. But I am going to have to transplant some of these as well because we need to make more room in this bathroom. And while I'd like to put in real bathrooms, I don't know if I want the increased power cost yet. Then again, it would give me more polluted dirt to be able to feed the sublimation station. Ah, I was kind of hoping by putting the tile here it was going to push Rover up. It looks like they built the hydroponic farm around Rover. One goof on my part is the bog buckets do not like light, so I'm going to have to move some of these because the mini pod was lighting them up too much, which is going to make us a little shy on calories once we get our 4th dupe. But once again, that 4th dupe is going to be the cook, so it should be fine. I mean, look at us. We're already up to 25,000 calories. I have decided that we are going to put in proper bathrooms, and we're going to use the water sieve. We do have plenty of the sand, and occasionally the plug slugs are connecting themselves to the wire, which is helping out with the power requirements. I'm sure plenty of you are asking yourselves why I'm not tapping into the natural gas generator, and it's because I don't have a good method to destroy heat yet. And the last thing our adorable little new colony needs to add to its list of problems is heat. I was really hoping for a cook out of this pod, and ONI likes to troll me sometimes. Both the Ashcan and the Abe have gourmet, but are not cooks themselves. And then there's this Rowan, who is a cook, but they're also a narcoleptic and mouth-breathing cook. No, thank you. Instead, we'll just grab some calories. The first step is going to be able to get rid of this little level here, so that I can have a 4-tile high bathroom, because I think I'm going to put at least 1 shower in here. And stress seems to be pretty much fixed, so I feel okay about getting rid of the massage clinic. I know, famous last words, but we'll see. So we've gotten some of this done, and as predicted, the stress level is already up to 42%, and unfortunately we're running really low on calories. It just happens to be a sort of lull in production. As you can see, we have a bunch of dust caps about to finish, and a lot of these bog buckets are at 99%. Well, look at that. Food. Hopefully the tickled tootsies helps overnight, and as you can see, the stress is going down a little bit, but if it gets up over 50%, I'm gonna have to put the massage clinic back. Okay, hear me out. This Camille is not a cook per se, but they start with grilling. They also have interest in doctoring, supplying, and ranching, so when we start ranching those plug slugs way down the road, Camille might work out perfectly. Welcome to our 25th duplicate, Carol. I kid you not, Carol came out of the pod and went directly to the phone. Carol, we have a lot of work to do, or you're going to starve to death. So can we leave the chit-chat to a minimum, please? Now we're going to put the electric girl right next to the printing pod, so we'll have the well-lit buff. And hopefully that is the last building that's going to require power, at least for a little while. With the electric grill complete, we can now start making Swampy Delights, which is not only going to have the benefit of cleaning the food, but it's going to increase the calories from 1,840 to 2,240. And then on the mushroom, we're getting an extra 400 calories per mushroom. Meanwhile, it also increases the quality of the food as well. So instead of them eating the raw food and getting 0 morale from it, they're going to be doing a little bit better and getting +1 to morale with the small upgrade in food quality. Wait a minute. There's another Carol already! So after doing some looking, apparently my roster is just fine. It's just that Carol supports the channel in more than one place. But in order to give all of the YouTube members and Patreons an opportunity to be in the colony, we're going to rename this Carol to Colonel Sanders. So welcome to Colonel Sanders, and I'm sorry for the mix-up. If it makes you feel any better, the colony's looking a lot better than it used to be. You should be happy. Apparently I am going to have to build another building that requires power, and it's going to be a gas pump. While I love the carbon dioxide system we're using here, it is starting to make it to where the duplicates can't breathe while they're sleeping. And for that, our stress is back up to 58%. So we're going to have to put in the massage clinic once again. And as a reminder, if you don't have your massage table in the massage clinic, you really are missing out. Right now, Ryan is receiving a massage, and it's reducing 30% of their stress per cycle. Watch what happens when we make this room into a clinic. Now, when Ryan's receiving their massage, they're getting minus 60% per cycle. So it literally is going to half the amount of time that your duplicant has to stay on the massage table. We are running dangerously low on calories once again, and it's because of these bog buckets. They're all growing at the exact same time, and unfortunately have not come to harvest quite yet. We should be okay. We have some barbecue and stuff laying around, but I probably made it worse when I was moving the liquid pump because the bog buckets went without polluted water for probably about a cycle. As for the other building that's going to require power, it's going to be the solution to get rid of all this carbon dioxide. We're just going to pump it up whenever this gas element sensor realizes that there's too much carbon dioxide here. Of course, that system would require a lot of piping, and it would take quite some time. So maybe instead of doing all this, I use the carbon skimmer and the same automation. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make some of this automation wire out of steel. I will maybe remember to recapture that at a later time once we have our own refined metal capabilities here on this planetoid. Here's some wonderful gold right here. Oh, this is delicious. Absolutely. As you can see, the situation is not much better. And one of the reasons why it's taking so long is because the duplicants are really not doing well, because they have to constantly wake up in the middle of the night to go breathe some oxygen before they can come back to sleep, and they do that the entire night, and then during the day they're just exhausted. For this reason, I've actually started setting priorities for our Rikazon duplicants. Normally when there's only a couple of duplicants on a planetoid, I leave all their priorities flat so that I can dictate what's being done when. For instance, like making sure the deodorizers are set on a 6 so that they get refilled on time, or keeping the old school potty on a 6 so it gets emptied. But by setting Brian to make sure they will do all the digging, they finally got around to coming over here and getting some of this gold. Look at this sweet, sweet refined metal. Over 2.5 tons worth as well. That's going to come in handy for a long time. Now this system is just tied into our bathroom system. So the clean water is going to come out from the water sieve, filling up the sinks and the toilets, and also providing the clean water for the carbon skimmer. All the polluted water is going to go back out and then meet up with the other bathroom outputs before it heads off to the water sieve and completes the circle of life. With the installation complete, all we have left to do, select carbon dioxide, provide a little bit of power. Oh, while we're here, let's clean up this mess, shall we? And then charge the whole system. We'll be able to do that just by connecting that pipe right there. We'll put a little bit of polluted water into the system so the water sieve can clean it, which will then give us some fresh water. Now it's going to take a little while for this whole system to fill up, but once it finally does and we start getting the overflow that we normally do from this closed loop system, we'll be feeding it to a thimble reed, because eventually we're going to need suits here too, so we might as well start getting some reed fiber. And I know a lot of people have the question, Echo, why don't you just ship anything you need over using the interplanetary launcher on the home planetoid? And we could definitely do that, but doing it this way is kind of like starting a brand new game of Oxygen Not Included. We're building this colony pretty much from the ground up. As you can see, the carbon skimmer has made quick work of all this carbon dioxide, and it was a good thing too. Things are already looking a little bit better on the colony. But the way this automation works is this gas element sensor detects if there's carbon dioxide in this tile. When it does, it sends a green signal to this filter gate. If the filter gate's been receiving a green signal for 30 seconds or longer, it'll pass that green signal on to the carbon skimmer. The reason why we're doing this is to make sure that the carbon dioxide is sitting on this tile. In other words, it's raised up to this level before we start destroying it, because we need to keep some carbon dioxide to make sure the dust caps can keep growing. A minor change to this system: the carbon skimmer is actually just too good at destroying carbon dioxide. So with the gas element sensor here, it started taking these fungal spores out of carbon dioxide because it was destroying it so quick. So we're going to move the gas element sensor up a little bit, and we change this to where it has to be sitting in carbon dioxide for 200 seconds now, which is a third of a cycle. In our digging and exploration, we've managed to uncover a lot more of the planetoid. There's another slime biome over here, and we still have a little bit more to discover. But check out this trio of metal volcanoes. We have a gold, cobalt, and iron right here. so I'm sure you can probably imagine where the industrial sauna is going to go. We also still have another unknown geyser right here, a cobalt volcano here, 2 more unknown vents and geysers here, so there's going to be a lot to play around with. And also, I kind of want to melt the entire frozen core. That's a lot of good water. That about does it for today's episode. I think everybody can agree that we've made a lot of progress, although we still have a lot of work to do. To start off with, we need to refill our polluted water tank. Otherwise, the duplicants are going to start to get hungry. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next time, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.